Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. For those new here, my name's Nikki. I'm an author and editor and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading and all the other things I love. Today I've got my author hat on and I'd like to have a bit of a chat with you about breaking into publishing through the use of short stories. Now, many of us, we write our great work. It's a, opus of 700 pages and we want to get it out there. But we put it out, we don't get a lot of readers, no one knows who we are. And one of the ways around that is to use short stories to give people a bit of an idea about your writing, to introduce them to you. Short stories are also really helpful in terms of breaking into publishing. For example, there are some publishers who don't allow submissions from the general public, but they will put out calls for anthologies. And once you've got a story with them in an anthology, then they'd be willing to look at your longer works. So there's two reasons for giving short stories a try. The third reason, which I also find very compelling, is that it's really brilliant. It's a brilliant way to test out your craft and to really grow in your craft. Short stories, with their limited word count, they really make you think about how to tell a story, how to get a lot into a short amount of time. And so you really have to understand your characters and getting your characters across. You have to understand pacing and how to make the story move, and you just have to understand how to be economical with your language as well. If you're a waffler, I do tend to be a waffler myself, and so it's really good training for me to do short stories to really bring everything down and get it down to the bare bones. So you've decided you want to do some short stories. You've got a few compelling reasons to do so. How are you going to go about it? The first thing you can do is just, if you have any story ideas, just write them. Even if there's not a particular call in mind, it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of a supply of short stories sitting there on your hard drive so that if a call comes up and there's quite a tight time limit, you've got something ready to go, or ready to go with just a few tweaks. Say you've got no inspiration. That's not the end of the world, because what you do now is you have a look around. Are there some publishers that you're interested in who you know put out on anthologies? This is particularly true for small presses. A lot of small presses do regular anthologies, whether it's once or twice a year or more regularly. And their websites will have a note of their calls. Take a look, do any of the themes inspire you? Even if you've not had any ideas up till now, seeing that call and seeing the ideas and what they're looking for might spark a story idea. At this point, whether you've got a story ready or whether you're just going to be writing something new, you want to pay attention to their submission deadline. For one thing, you want to know when do you have to have this ready by. You then want to look at their other submission guidelines. How do they want the story formatted? What's the word count? Are there any things that they don't want to see in the story? Sometimes they give you quite strict guidelines on how they want it formatted. Sometimes it's a little bit looser. If so, go with something fairly standard like Times New Roman 12 point. But just take a look. Is that going to fit with a story that you've already got ready? Does it inspire you to write a story? But always keep in mind, if you're writing something fresh, that you need to keep within their word counts and keep to their guidelines, because you've got no chance of being accepted if you don't do that. So you've got it all ready, everything's ready to go. What do you do now? At the very end, I'd say always double check. I'm going back to those guidelines again, make sure you're submitting it in time, in the format they want, that it fits the theme they want. And then you send it off and hope. At that point, perhaps you'll hear back from them and they may offer you a contract on the story. Always read the contracts for anthologies very carefully. You want to know, well, always read all your contracts very carefully, obviously, but in particular with the short stories for anthology submissions, you want to know what is the payment rate. And some don't expect you to receive anything for it, and I'm always a little bit wary of that. I think every author should receive something for their work. I'd be very wary about submitting to anywhere that refused to give me anything for my submission. But even if it's just a nominal little fee, if you're just getting started, even if it's just $5 to $10 or something you get for it, that's still a good way to kickstart you and get things moving. But check what they're going to pay you. Is there a flat fee? Or are there royalties involved? I've been with anthologies sometimes where I just got a fairly large flat fee and that was it. And no matter how many copies sold, I wouldn't get any more money. Other times I've been through ones that don't pay any flat fee and you just get royalties. And I've sometimes submitted to some where they give you a small flat fee and then you also get some royalties from individual sales later. Because in some places the anthologies may combine all the stories in one book, but also release short story ebooks of your individual pieces as well. Check that, check what rights they want. Sometimes you'll find they only ask for rights for the first 60 or 90 days and then you can use the story again, which is awesome. It may mean you can't get paid for it again, but you could put it up on your website, offer it on your newsletter as a freebie. So there are various options that you can pursue to get the most out of that story. And then just make sure you're happy with all the other details. How long do they want to hold the rights for, as I've just mentioned, how much they're paying you, and how are you going to get that payment. You want to check all those sort of details out. If you're happy to go ahead, all's looking good, at that point you can start promoting. And what you'll find is that you may be able to join together with some of the other authors in the anthology to do a bit of a joint promotion, which will help get your story out there in front of a bigger number of readers, or potential readers at least. Breaking into publishing with short stories is a great way to go. Not only does it get your foot in the door with a publisher, it helps to get your name out there, and readers who maybe wouldn't have taken a chance on your individual novel, they may come across your story in an anthology, in a collection, and decide they like your writing, at which point they'll then want to go and check out your novel. So it is a great way to open things up for you, particularly if you're an absolute newbie on the scene and you just want to get your foot in the door, get some work out there and judge how people are receiving your work. You know, get some feedback before you try and release a long individual piece. So those are a few thoughts on short stories to get you started. If you've got any comments or questions, do pop them below. Have you tried short stories as an entree into publishing? If so, how did it go for you? Do you have any advice on the publication of short stories for any new writers? I'll finish there, but I look forward to seeing you all again very soon with another vlog. Bye for now, everyone.